Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Retro, and today we're going to talk about Epson computers, or Epson laptops so to speak, because at one point in time Epson was highly regarded as one of the best laptop makers of the time. In fact, they were probably the only true laptop maker outside of Husky with their Hunter and their range of armored laptops. They're virtually indestructible laptops, but the Epson range was more like a modern system, as you can see here with the PX8. It had a proper keyboard and this one had a larger screen. It was quite nice to type on. It was very light, very portable. It wasn't luggable like the Osbornes and similar, or the later Amstrad portable computers, and they did an amazing job. They actually brought the concept of laptop computers on by a very long way. Now, they could have kind of been regarded as the Toshiba of their time simply because of the innovation that they were putting into their laptops, but they were very expensive and they didn't get a massive foothold in the home and hobbyist market. They were more aimed at the business user. But we're going to take a look at the PX8 today. It's going to be an overview of what this laptop is, what it can do, what its specs are. So let's take a look at the Epson PX8. The Epson PX8 was the successor to the PX4 and the HX20. The main improvement was twice the size of its bigger LCD flip-up screen. And it came out with 4 cartridges which could be added to the base unit: a basic programming language, a card box, a diary which could hold at about 400 names and addresses, a spreadsheet and WordStar, and this was the well-known word processor at the time. A double 5.25 floppy drive was also available, and Epson developed a standalone 3.5 floppy drive for this machine a little later. The PX8 you see here was designed to be compatible with CP/M, but some of them needed modifications, mainly because of the small display size or the small screen size on this system, because it only had 8 lines of 80 characters, and that's what was shown at any one time, but you could actually scroll through up to 48 lines. And this machine was also used a lot as a terminal for other computers. Now, the PX8 was sold around the world, but it was also sold as the HC88 in Japan and the Geneva in the USA. Now, it was quite an impressive machine when you consider it was no larger than a modern full-size laptop. It was released in 1984. It had a full-stroke 72-key keyboard with function and separate cursor keys, and it was quite nice to use. The CPU was the old favourite of a Z80, and it actually used a Hitachi 6301 for its I/O. The Z80 was running at 2.45 MHz, and it also had a 614 kHz 6301 to handle the I/O, as we mentioned before. It had 64K of RAM on board, and it could handle up to 180 kilobytes. It had 6 kilobytes of VRAM and a big 32K ROM. Its text modes were 80 lines by 80 characters. It could also display graphics of 480 by 64 dots. The LCD panel itself was a monochrome display. It had no colour, but it did have sound. It had a beeper with a volume control on the side. And the entire unit was not much bigger than the footprint of an A4 sheet of paper, and it weighed about 1.8 kilograms. The computer had the following ports on board, which is an RS-232, a barcode reader, a bus, an ADC. It also had a cartridge port and analog in, or 2 analog in ports. Its main media was the small tape deck you could see in the front of the machine just under the LCD screen, and its predominant OS was CP/M. It ran on 6 volts AC and it had a built-in NiCad battery. As far as peripherals were concerned, you could get an extra 64K or 128K memory expansion units, as well as the aforementioned floppy drive units, and it was fairly expensive, being £798 in mid 1980s, so it wasn't a cheap machine by any means. But this has been a 3-minute retro on the Epson PX8. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.